Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I talk about buying and selling Pokemon cards. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what's been happening to me recently as a seller, give you guys an inside scoop, and also I'm going to be talking about TCGPlayer Direct. So let's get into it. Now, I have 22,000 cards in my TCGPlayer inventory. And that's really where I've been mainly selling through. I sell some stuff through eBay, but it's really been mainly TCGPlayer. And sales has been kind of slow lately and a little too slow. So I took a look at what's going on with my pricings and I lowered it a little bit to see if that would help. That helped tremendously. If you guys don't know, if you get to level 4 seller, pro TCGPlayer Direct type level, you'll have access to tools like mass pricing tools, and one of the options of the mass pricing tools is whether or not to skip something that would make your price 50% or lower. And I had that checked on. So even though I was running this rule all the time to keep my prices competitively to TCGPlayer Direct low prices, it wasn't actually changing most of them because a lot of them were pretty high up. Anyways, I ended up unchecking that rule, running the algorithm again, and ended up reducing a lot of my cards' prices. And right after I did that, I got an order for like $50 with a bunch of celebration cards. I think this person was actually flipping these cards somewhere else, which is insane because they're already buying them at like 10 cents per card, so they would have to be selling them a lot higher, which if you do at eBay and take your time, you can. And I also changed my sorting and listing system. So last time that I talked about this, I told you guys that I was going to be using the TCGPlayer Scanner app since I thought it was going to be the best way, fastest way. And it ended up being not the most accurate way, which I ended up giving up on that because a big pet peeve of mine, something that really bugs me, is having a card being sold and I can't find it, or I accidentally listed it incorrectly, which happens, but I was having a lot of that happen lately and I don't like that. So I was starting to really try to pinpoint where in the system, where in the chain of things this was happening. And when I was doing a card scanning for a Burning Shadows set of like 190 cards, I really tested it. And it was slower than if I did it a different way, so that wasn't good. And a lot of it is because the scanning for the card needs to be at a really good lighting, and hollows, reverses, just forget about those unless you have really good lighting, but most of the time I don't, so and it doesn't end up picking those up and then have to enter those manually, so it just makes more work. And it also ended up entering them incorrectly. Somehow it entered 190 cards when I only had 130. So I did a test. I'm like, I'm going to scan all these, and then I'm going to count at the end how many cards were scanned and how many cards there actually are. And that was a big discrepancy, 60 cards or so. So I was like, yep, I'm not going to do that anymore. But thankfully, I was able to find a system that I am so happy and proud of. So what I'm doing now is using my tins that I had before transitioning to my 4-row box counts. And these tins are such a big blessing because what I'm doing now is I have 2 main tins that I keep next to me whenever I'm like trying to sort completely random cards. So like I have a stack of cards that I don't know what set they're from, what era, right? They could be Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet. So I have my Sword and Shield tin, my Scarlet and Violet tin, and they have the names of all the sets so that I can just quickly drop the card in there. And once I have a good amount of cards for a set like Pedant Fates, right? Then I go and grab a different set of tins that has all the letters of the alphabet. So now I have a stack of all Pedant Fates, and then I can go to this second tin and put all the A's together, all the B's together. And I found that to be super helpful. I'm thinking that I can list 2,000 cards a day using this system, which I'm definitely going to be doing that at this point. I was trying to get my stuff situated, like organization, storage, all of that, so that I can start really adding cards. And that's where I'm at now. Excuse me. So you guys hold me to it. I have 22,000 cards now. Tomorrow I better have 24,000, 26,000 the next day, right? So I'm really going to try to add as much cards as I can. And I'm really motivated because I really need money right now. So we're going to find out if this system really can list 2,000 cards. So it's not just about sorting, listing, and also putting 2,000 cards away. And while doing all of that, sending out orders, right? So I'm going to get more orders if I list more cards. So that's going to be interesting. I'm trying to get to 100,000 cards in my inventory to really answer the question of what this would look like if you wanted to do it full time. Now, speaking of all that, it's full time. I'm going to talk about now TCGPlayer Direct. I recently sent out an RI reimbursement invoice. If you guys don't know, I'm part of the TCGPlayer Direct program. I have list cards, they will sell it for me, and then I ship cards back to them. That's the general gist of the program. I was looking around the community of resellers. As I do, I like to watch videos of Pokemon resellers on YouTube, and I've been seeing the sentiment that a lot of you guys are saying that getting into the TCGPlayer Direct program is very hard now. And I have taken a look at the new rules, new requirements, and I think that they have increased it. When I was around, I don't think there was that, or when I started and got accepted to the program, I don't think there was that $600 sales for a week policy. And if I look at my sales now, I don't even make 600 sales in a week. Now, like I've been telling you guys though, I've been focusing on sorting, listing, but I'm going to be starting to really list a bunch of cards now, and we will see. I definitely will be able to get to that point. But that part I do think is a little bit unreasonable. Now, I do want to give my clear opinions on this. I understand where TCGPlayer is coming from with this program and making the admissions harder. Because if you think about it from their perspective, they're trying to filter everyone that might be doing this as part-time side gig to people that are really trying to pursue it a little bit more than that, a little bit more than side gig, like almost full-time, kind of like what I'm trying to do. And the reason for that is because they want, if they're going to admit people to this program and they're selling cards for them and this and that, they want sellers that are going to have a good supply so that these sales can be fulfilled, right? If someone's looking for any card in TCGPlayer Direct, if they have sellers that have higher inventory than just your local sellers, then the more likely TCGPlayer will be able to fulfill that order. So I do think that it shouldn't be for everyone. I do agree with them in that regard. It should be for everyone that's taking it a little bit more a little bit more serious. Now, the $600 threshold, though, I do think it's high, even for me. 21,000 cards in my inventory and part of the TCGPlayer Direct program, so I have that advantage of being boosted by them. I do think it's a little bit high. They should lower that down to maybe like 400, because then you would still filter the people that are still doing it for part-time, and you can still admit people that are trying to get in seriously into the program. Now, is it worth it trying to get into TCGPlayer Direct? Maybe I should have started with this. I think 100, 1,000, 1,000,000% it is worth it. As a single seller, I might not even be doing TCGPlayer anymore if I wasn't part of the Direct program. And I knew this starting off my journey selling on TCGPlayer. I did a lot of research, like a lot of you guys are, watching videos, everything that you possibly can learn. And I think it was Cardinal Gaming. They were like talking about the program, and it made so much sense because recently I'd sent 800 cards to TCGPlayer and I paid $9 for shipping. Now, granted that below a certain value of cards, they take 50% of the profit because they're shipping out the order, right? So if you sell a card for 6 cents, they're going to keep 3 cents. You're going to get 3 cents. Now, the name of the game is, the reason it's worth it is because you don't have to pay for that stamp, that envelope, and the hour, right, labor. So overhead cost and overhead work, time, is worth it in that regard. It lets you push more cards out. And at the end of the day, I think ultimately that's what you want to do. Try to sell as many cards as you can. So, and another reason that it's worth it is because you will get more exposure on the site if you're part of the program, even if you don't have everything that, for example, that other sellers might have. Some sellers would choose to go with you versus them because at least I would, and the reason that I do it is more for higher end cards. If you guys don't know, TCGPlayer is very strict with their conditioning. So if you get a card and you choose to purchase it from TCGPlayer Direct, and that means that TCGPlayer is going to be shipping it to you. And if it's a near mint, you're most than likely 99%, there are some exceptions, but 99% that card will be that condition. Like near mints will be near mint, even maybe mint. I've had some minty cards like that can be graded because TCGPlayer has a very strict requirement. If I sent cards out to them that I've listed as near mint and they sold it to me and they're not near mint, they check. I think they do it with the machine. They check everything, even like reverses. I've had some reverses that have a bunch of scratches. I'm like, really? Someone's over here checking reverses? But I think a machine does it. If it's not that condition that you listed it to, they will send it back to you and you've lost that sale. It is that simple. They're very strict. So when I list cards on my inventory, I am 100% sure that it's that quality, double checking, triple checking, because it just doesn't make sense to list it anything other than that quality. It's just, you would lose, right, on that sale. So a little bit about my 2 cents. And by the way, I actually don't know 100% sure if that rule was there or not, the $600 rule to get into TCGPlayer Direct, because when I first started selling, I had my collection, my personal collection, which was insane, like thousands and thousands worth of dollars. I went really hard in my collection and I was just like, it's time to sell it. And then I transitioned into alt arts. I had tens of thousands of dollars in alt arts, which then I sold for this tiny house. But anyways, when I started, I sold my really expensive, massive collection on the site. And I was actually top tier of the 5% sellers that was like tier 3, because at tier 3, you can then your limit for selling increases a lot higher. So I was top 5% of top 3 tiers in TCGPlayer. I made like $5,000 in my first month because I had really high-end cards. And also, I even went out of my way to buy more cards to specifically sell on TCGPlayer. And I even took some losses on some cards to try to get to that requirement of the number of orders sold, the feedback as well. I would give people free cards, and so they would give me good feedback, because you need, I think, 99.5%, so like almost perfect feedback. So it is a really high requirement. I'm just really thankful that I was able to get into it when I was, and I recommend that if you are wanting to do that, and it's not that worst thing to take some losses, like adding some cards. What I did is I had some Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I didn't know what to do with. So I listed all for like a penny, and that got me more sales, which you need like a certain amount of sales to be qualified. Anyways, that's a little bit about my 2 cents. I'm going to be trying to list a lot more now that I have my system, and hopefully give you guys a better insight as to what it would look like when you have a really high inventory count. All right, appreciate you guys watching this video. If you made it all the way through, drop a like. I'd really appreciate it. Subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.